सदाशिव समारंभाम
सदाशिव समारंभाम
शंकराचार्य मध्यमाम
शंकराचार्य मध्यमाम
अस्मदाचार्य पर्यंताम
अस्मदाचार्य पर्यंताम
वंदे गुरु परंपराम
वंदे गुरु परंपराम
वसुदेव सुतं देवम
वसुदेव सुतं देवम
कंस चाणूरमर्दनम
कंस चाणूरमर्दनम
देवकी परमानंदम
देवकी परमानंदम
कृष्णं वंदे जगद्गुरुम
कृष्णं वंदे जगद्गुरुम
श्रेयो हि ज्ञानम अभ्यासात्
श्रेयो हि ज्ञानाभ्यासा
ज्ञानात् ध्यानं विशिष्यते
ज्ञानात् ध्यानं विशिष्यते
ध्यानात् कर्म फल त्यागः
ध्यानात् कर्म फल त्यागः
त्यागात् शांति अनंतरम.
त्यागः शान्तिरनन्तरम्.
Hari Om. So first thing is happy Ram Navami to all of us. It's not, there is no separate you and me when we say happy Ram Navami. We'll as we decided, we'll start from the beginning, but maybe a couple of sessions we'll spend what is Bhagavad Gita, because a lot of people have this question, what is Bhagavad Gita? And we always revisit the same teaching and we find new meanings. We discover new meanings and we discover new self. Actually, it's not just the meaning. That's the same person is different when we read the Shastra again and again and revisit the teaching. But before that, we'll just spend few minutes on Bhagwan Ram and we'll get into Bhagavad Gita. On the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Bhagwan is describing his vibhutis, and Bhagwan says, I am Ganga among the rivers, Saritanam Janavi Asmi, and Stavaranam Himalaya Asmi. I am Himalaya among the mountains. So he's describing best among the best. A lot of other things he says, Bhagwan says. And then one point he says that I am Ram, so Ramah Shastabhatamaham. I am Ram among the holders of the weapons. That's what he's saying. मैं शस्त्रधारियों में Ram हूं, because Ram is the best. So today somebody asked me to give a message on Ram Navami, and I did this message I delivered. So Bhagwan Ram is known as Maryada Purushottam. So in broad sense, if we look at Maryada has three things, as I understand. One is, of course, bravery, and then fearlessness, which is Abhay. Then second is humility, modesty, which is Namrata. And third is wisdom, which is Vivek. So these three things is Maryada. It's a social order, we can say, or cosmic order, or even personal order. But this is, Maryada is always told for the people who have power. I mean, जिस आदमी के पास कुछ है ही नहीं, उसके लिए क्या मर्यादा बेचारे की. So Maryada comes when you have the power, you have the authority to use, and that time Maryada comes. जिसके पास कुछ है नहीं, उसकी तो क्या मर्यादा. So that's why Bhagwan Krishna, and one of the thing which we carry, and these days we all hear weapons in America and many parts of the world, in the countries, right? They misuse the weapons because there is no Maryada. We call Nashville, we saw that what happened. Somebody takes the gun and shoot kids. There is no Maryada. Oh, there's a licensed gun. Yeah, licensed gun, but there is a Maryada. Well, use the gun. Because the wisdom is not there. Modesty is not there. Humility is not there. And the bravery doesn't mean you take the gun and shoot it. Bravery means the protection of Raj. That is the bal, that is the bravery. So that's what Bhagwan says, the weapon dhariyon mein Ram hu. Because Ram was Maryada Purushottam, he never used the weapon for any wrong cause. He was one of the most powerful warrior of that time. But only when it is needed, he used the weapon. And that's the Maryada. So that's what Bhagwan says, ki Shastradhariyon mein Ram hu. And it is very important, not only weapons. The message here is for all of us in day-to-day life. Everybody has some or other authority. I mean, I could be a 10-year-old elder brother. I have some authority over my 8-year-old, 6-year-old sibling or sister or brother. So everybody has some or other authority. And that's why we need Maryada, and not only for the soldiers or the warriors. Maryada is needed for everyone. So again, we need to have that fearlessness, we need to have modesty, namrata, we need to have wisdom. And then only the power or authority is used for the right cause. And that's the reason I think Bhagwan Krishna says, I am Ram in Shastradhariyon mein Ram hu. So pranam to Maryada Purushottam Bhagwan Ram, and hope we can walk on his footsteps. And that's why I tell some people ask me that वो रामायण पढ़ना चाहिए, कैसे पढ़े? मैं बोलता रामायण कैसे पढ़े प्रश्न नहीं है, रामायण पढ़ने के बाद क्या करें ये प्रश्न है. रामायण तो बहुत तरीके से पढ़ सकते हैं, सुबह पढ़े, शाम को पढ़े, 9 दिन में पढ़े, 10 दिन में पढ़े, 1 दिन में पढ़े, 24 घंटे में पढ़े, लेकिन it is not turning the pages, because the name itself is राम आयन, राम की यात्रा. तो जिस यात्रा पे राम चले, रामायण पढ़ने का मतलब है कि उस यात्रा पे हम भी तो चले. Let's walk on the footsteps of Bhagwan Ram. That's why the whole name is given Ramayana. तो जो यात्रा भगवान ने करी, वो यात्रा अगर हम करें, that is reading of Ramayana. So with that, our pranam to Bhagwan Ram and happy Ram Navami to all of us. So now we will enter into our today's topic. So we'll spend maybe a couple of sessions on the significance of Bhagavad Gita. There is always, I mean, in this trip I was visiting one of my relative or friend, and they live in Bharat, right? And they were discussing on the dining table, husband and wife, that वो कथा चल रही थी, तो भगवत की कथा भगवत गीता की कथा चल रही थी कि वो भागवत की कथा चल रही थी. They were discussing and they asked me क्या था. तो मैंने कहा, whenever you hear the word कि कथा चल रही थी, तो श्रीमद् भागवत होती है. When there is a discourse or discussion, that is Bhagavad Gita. Then say, okay, वो उसमें फर्क क्या है? बहुत लोगों को confusion रहता है. So there is, if simple terms में, equivalent of Ramayana, which is the journey of Sri Ram. Srimad Bhagavad is journey of Shri Krishna. In that sense, if we want to compare. But when you look at the Itihas book, Ramayana and Mahabharata, there are 2 Itihas books. So Mahabharata is not just the journey of Shri Krishna. Srimad Bhagavad is journey of Shri Krishna. So अगर आपको श्री कृष्ण की जैसे रामायण के पैरेलल पढ़ना है तो भागवतम है, लेकिन श्री कृष्ण की टीचिंग अगर पढ़नी है तो भगवद गीता है, which is part of Mahabharata. Mahabharata is one of the biggest epic. So Mahabharata, when we used to watch on TV, and people call Mahabharata Pancham Ved also. Ved means a book of knowledge. And Mahabharata, the reason we call it Pancham Ved, with Mahabharata has everything. It teaches also, and it tells how the life is and how to, so when the problem comes, how to solve. So Mahabharata is a Ved also, they say. हम लोग Mahabharata serial when used to watch, there was, in the beginning of that, there is a title song, बड़ा प्यारा song है. And it says that भारत की है कहानी, महाभारत का, सदियों से भी पुरानी है, ज्ञान की ये गंगा, ऋषियों की अमर वाणी, ये विश्व भारती है, वीरों की आरती है नित नई पुरानी, भारत की ये कहानी, महाभारत महाभारत. नित नई पुरानी, it is old but always new. भारत की ये कहानी. So that's what the whole title song. So it is old but always new. And Bhagavad Gita comes from Mahabharata. So that's what we say, that Bhagavad Gita is never old. It's always new. And whenever we read, we find the new meaning. And we'll see how it is relevant and how it is always. So today we'll spend some time with what is the relevance. And it is people call it Gita Darshan also. So Darshan is in English, is translated as philosophy. But because it is coming from the English or the Greek terminology. But darshan is not exactly the philosophy. Philosophy is a loose translation. We have to do some English. It's a lot of difference. So The Western, they came up with the philosophy word. It is for them is some inquiry into unknown things. So they call it philosophy. And they come up with some logical thing. This is philosophy. But for us, our Rishi Muni, they were not just looking for some unknown things. There is a adhyatma also behind that. So they are not looking for something, Prithvi gol kyun hai? Yeah, that was part of it. But everything is around Bhagwan. Everything is around spirituality. So Bharati Darshan, or that's why Gita is a darshan. It is more about spirituality rather than just finding some rational or how the world works. So, and we'll go into detail in next session. But for us, Gita is a darshan. It's not just the philosophy, which shows us darshan is a perspective of seeing things, seeing myself and seeing Bhagwan in simple terms. So that's what Gita is about. So Pancham Ved, Mahabharata, it has come from. Then there is another question always comes that it's a book of war. If you read some translation, kahin kahin milte hain. Mahabharata, Gita or Mahabharata is a book of war. And that's why some people get confused that it's, and as I think last time also we talked, that Krishna has proved that Shanti and war, Shanti and Yuddha can coexist. Typically, when we see there is a war, there is no peace because it's a war. Krishna has proved that Shanti and war can coexist. So that's why he, in the Mahabharata, Bhagwan has used the word. This is a Dharma Yuddha. This is not just an ordinary fight. It's a Dharma Yuddha. So when Dharma is in the picture, then after the Yuddha, Shanti should be there. So purpose of this war was not just the fight, to establish the Shanti. And the best part is a lot of people say that, of course, I mean, it is said that 4.5 million soldiers were there, both sides together. 1 million from Pandav side and 1.5 and some 3 million from Kaurav side. And majority of them died. Majority. So there was a loss of the soldiers. And it is written in some history record that after that, Bharat got disintegrated. That's why some people came from outside also. And some people, they moved outside of Bharat after Mahabharata war. So it was a disintegration. And the question comes that people like Krishna didn't know that. He knew that this is going to happen. But what would have happened if Duryodhan continued was worse than that. So Bhagwan says, oh, we have to take a chance. I mean, of course, because Duryodhan, what if he continues to rule, he's going to destroy anyways. So that's why Bhagwan in Mahabharata, he went to Dhritarashtra, Duryodhan, he went to Kaurav, said, let's have a peace. Pandava could give 5 villages, will not have war. But they didn't agree. And finally, he went as a Shanti Dut, the messenger of or ambassador of peace. But they didn't agree. So the war had to happen. So Krishna knew that the implication of this war will be enormous. But there was no choice because he was still looking for Shanti. So he proved that Shanti and that's the reason when we read Bhagavad Gita, go chapter by chapter, he never showed and told Arjuna also, don't show the aggression. You are in this war for a reason. So keep the peace of mind. That is the reason we'll see that the 6th chapter when we come and we do that, right? Dhyan. In the middle of the war and sitting on the war field, everybody is so tense. He is teaching dhyan to Arjun. He said, Arjun, ban karke dhyan karo. That shows that Krishna was never for the war. Krishna was always for the peace. इसलिए अर्जुन को बोलते ही रहे आखिर तक कि मन शांति तो रखनी है, whatever happens. So that's one message come from that. Bhagavad Gita or Mahabharata is for peace, not for youth. A lot of people say book of war, which I personally don't like too much. It's not a book of war. So that's right. And what is Bhagavad Gita in simple terms? हम लोग every chapter, Bhagwan didn't say that time. It is added later by our acharyas. So we all at the end of every chapter we say Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvadya, and then Arjuna Vishad Yoga, whatever chapter is there, Adhyaya Samapta. So there are two things used. What is Bhagavad Gita? If people ask, like sometimes the answer is given right in there. And that's what I think our Acharya has compiled that shlok. Two things. One is Yoga Shastra. Bhagavad Gita is a Yoga Shastra. And whenever we read Yoga word in Bhagavad Gita, it is not Ashtanga Yoga. That's not, and that's why a lot of time people get confused that yoga, the moment we say yoga means Baba Ramdev ekdam se dimag mein aate. That is Ashtanga Yoga. That is Patanjali Yoga. That's a very different thing. Let's not confuse with that. This yoga, what Bhagwan is saying, Yoga Shastra, in simple English or in modern terms, we say yoga is nothing but implementation of something. That is yoga. The whole word has come from huge engaging something. So if I'm engaged in something, engaged myself in something, that is yoga. The same has come in Ashtanga Yoga. The word is same, root is same, but here it is an engagement. Yoga Shastra means using something, or we can say instrument here. That's why it is Yoga Shastra. And what are we engaging in Bhagavad Gita? Entire Bhagavad Gita we will go. There are two things to be engaged. One is karma, and second is upasana. And that is also the essence of Ved. When we talk about Ved, Ved में क्या है? वेद में तीन ही चीजें लोग बोलते हैं, कर्म, उपासना और ज्ञान. So, and the Bhagavad Gita is essence of Ved. So that's why when we say Yoga Shastra, it is telling us the method, the implementation of karma and upasana. And we'll see. Then entire Bhagavad Gita is about that. So that's why it is called Yoga Shastra, because it is using karma and upasana. The second Bhagavan says Brahma Vidyayam. So there are two things happening in Bhagavad Gita. One is it is a Yoga Shastra. Second is a Brahma Vidya Shastra. And what is Brahma Vidya? Actually, हमारे एक आचार्य जी बोलते हैं, it is, if you read that way, it is Brahma or Atma is same here, Bhagavad Gita. So you can say Atma Vidyayam or Brahma Vidyayam, because at the end we see that Tattvamasi means you are that. There is no Tat, there is no Tvam. That and you are same. That's the goal ultimately. At the end, Arjuna also says. So Atma Vidyayam ya Brahma Vidyayam. So that's what they say, Acharya ji say that Brahma is Vidya. So there is no separate Brahma ki Vidya. Brahma is Vidya. Once you know Brahman, it is Vidya, then Vidya is dropped. So this is Brahma Vidya also. And what is the Brahma Vidya? Knowing yourself. The knowledge of yourself is Brahma Vidya. There is no separate Brahma. When we reach to that state, Brahma is also dropped. So या तो ब्रह्म रहेंगे या मैं रहूंगा, दो नहीं रहेंगे. So that's what it is, Atma Vidya or Brahma Vidya. So Bhagavad Gita is Yoga Shastra and Brahma Vidya. And people these days, modern terms, we call it self-realization. It's a very popular term. There are institutes in America, the self-realization institute and all those things. So Bhagavad Gita is Yoga Shastra and Brahma Vidya. So Karma and Upasana and Atma Gyan. That's it. So that is Bhagavad Gita. And there are a number of examples given that what is self-knowledge. So I when I talk to kids also, it's very, to explain to them, I always give that example of there is a Lion King movie. Most of us have seen. If not, we should see it. It's a very interesting movie. In the movie, that little lion, Simba, he is separated from his parents and he grew up with other animals like the pig and the bird and monkey and other, like not those strong animals, like the weak animals. And Simba thinks that he is like them. So all the life, but one day he encounters another Nala, which is a lioness, and she's a lioness. And this Simba thinks that all these are running away because there is a lioness, and he also tries to run away. Then finally he has to encounter. And when encountering, he realizes, oh, I have the same power as the lioness. And then he realized, I am the lion. Oh, then the whole story goes. He has seen the movie. So first time when encountering the lioness, he realizes, I am the lion. So there was nothing happened to Simba. Only thing, the realization that, oh, I am lion. He was already a lion. And same thing happens here. So nothing happens in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavan says separate. Only thing, at the end, you will realize you are that. So that is Atma Gyan or Atma Vidya or Brahma Vidya. So Yoga Shastra, Karma and Upasana and Atma Gyan, that is Bhagavad Gita. So now what it teaches. And this is another important term which Bhagavad Gita has, many scholars have very studied and they have agreed that there is a term called Dharma, which is very well described in the Bhagavad Gita. Otherwise, people have a lot of confusion about Dharma. Dharma is not religion. For a reason, we have used Hindu Dharma or Jain Dharma or Buddha Dharma, but Dharma has no attachment. Dharma is independent of all these identifications. Dharma is just Dharma. Because Hindus are practicing to sustain that value system, which is Dharma. We call it Hindu Dharma for a practical reason, but Dharma is. So Gita describes Dharma very well, and Gita, when Bhagavan says Dharma, he tells Arjuna it is Swadharma. Dharma is a very high level global concept, universal. But when it comes to me, it becomes my Swadharma. And for example, like, Satya is a universal concept. Satya is one of the characteristics of Dharma. It's a universal thing. Satya has to be practiced. But when it comes to me in particular situation, how do I use Satya? That becomes my Swadharma. So Gita talks about Dharma, which is Swadharma, and from there karma comes. So karma is always based on the Dharma or Swadharma. Karma is not independent. And that's why when we read that very famous shloka, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Bhaja. Bhagwan is not saying धर्म में कोई लोग बहुत सोचते हैं कि सर्वधर्मान में भगवान सोचते हैं कि सारे धर्म छोड़ के, like agnostic people use that, oh गीता में कहा है कि कोई धर्म नहीं होते हैं, सिर्फ कर्म करो. ऐसा भगवान ने नहीं कहा. भगवान never said कि धर्म छोड़ना है. उस समय भगवान कह रहे हैं सब कर्म and कर्म भी, when we read Bhagavad Gita, it is the कर्ता भाव छोड़ना. भगवान is not saying सर्वधर्मान परित्यज्य. सर्व धर्म में और या सर्व स्वधर्म में और सर्व कर्म में कर्तापन छोड़ के मेरे पास आ. And then the whole श्लोक मां शुचर. तो ये तेरी अशांति जो है, ये grief, sorrow will, I'll take care of that. That's the श्लोक. We'll read that when we come to that. But that's what very well defined in that. So in that sense, karma is nothing but, dharma is nothing but a cosmic harmony, we can say, or cosmic order, or social order, or global ecosystem. It is not individual thing. So dharma is that, and that Gita touches. We'll see when we go. And typically in our corporate world these days, there is a famous like vision. Corporations say that people, planet, and profit. And there are certain rules and regulations by government for the public companies that you have to maintain that emission should be controlled, and you should serve the communities. You have few percent should go to the societies, and in fact the departments, HR has become cultural and engagement, diversity should be there, in the discrimination should be reduced. Those are people, take care of the planet, and then profit. So now they are saying that is universal value. And that is actually, in modern terms, that is dharma of the commercial people. Take care of everything. Similarly, taking care of everything in the ecosystem. My action should make sure that the harmony of this world is not disturbed. That is dharma. So that's what Gita says, and we'll read that. It's a value system or orderliness. So dharma, just we'll read one story. Not read, but I'll share that, right? हम सब ने अभी भागवत की बात करी थी. So we all know that in Bhagavad, Parikshit, Raja Parikshit, who was the descendant of Arjun's son Abhimanyu, Abhimanyu's son Parikshit, right? And after Mahabharata war, Parikshit was the king left, right? And the story goes, Parikshit was one day in the forest and he was hungry or thirsty, and then one Rishi was doing meditation and he asked for water, and Rishi didn't pay attention, Shringi Rishi. So Parikshit got angry and he threw a snake on Rishi's neck, and then finally Rishi's son came and they gave a curse to Parikshit that you will die in 7 days. And then whole Bhagavad starts. Interesting. But before that, when this happened, Parikshit one day he was going and the story comes, and it's like a story is very symbolic, but it has a lot of meaning. He saw a bull with one leg, and he said, bull means Vrash. And they're talking. The story says they're talking. And he says, आप लगते तो कोई महात्मा जैसे हैं बुल को, but you have one leg, what has happened? तो वो कहते हैं कि ये कलयुग ने मेरे 3 पैर तोड़ दिए हैं. Then भागवत में explain किया हुआ है कि when Satyug was there, Dharma had 4 legs in Satyug. Satyug means a time where the Satyug Yuga is a time where everybody was so good. So Dharma has 4 legs. Yeah, Satya, truth, Daya, compassion, Tapas, austerities, and Dan, charities. All 4 were had in the society. Everybody was happy because everybody is truthful, compassionate, people are sharing with each other, the Danam, and of course, Tapas, everybody doing austerity. So it was Satyug. But and then the Treta came, 25% of the strength of Dharma has gone. Or some story says 1 leg is gone. So Sat was gone. So now Dharma has, in Treta, where Bhagwan Ram was there. So the time has changed. Now Dharma has 3 legs. Sat is reduced, or 25% capacity of Dharma is reduced. When the Dwapar came, Bhagwan Krishna's time, Treta was Bhagwan Ram's time. Then another 25% capacity was lost. Now Dharma has only 50% capacity. So it is said that tapas is also gone. Only daya or dan remains. Or out of 4 legs have only 50% capacity. Dharma is weak. And the Kalyug came. That's what Yudhishthir, Parikshit was asking Bull, what happened to you? He said कि कलयुग ने मेरे 3 पैर खत्म कर दिए, मैं एक ही पैर पे खड़ा हूँ, which is only सत्य. सत्य ही बचा है. And then the story goes, Yudhishthir, Parikshit was angry and he told Kalyug that you have to run away from here. You cannot live in my kingdom. And then the story says, Kalyug ne bola ki main kahan jaun? Like, he said, okay, you can go to places where people are playing, gambling and doing all kind of tamas. So go and live in tamas. So Kalyug still lives in tamas. And then Parikshit restored 4 legs of Dharma. He says कि जो तमस में नहीं रहेगा वो धार्मिक होगा, उस धर्मी के पास 4 पैर होंगे. Yes, strength is full. So सत्य होगा, तपस होगा, दया होगी और दान होगी. So whenever, and the Shastra says, whenever, and we'll read in the 14th chapter, same thing comes in 14th chapter, Gunatraya Bhagyo. Whenever we have sattva in our feeling, or I feel sattva is in my behavior or my consciousness, then I'm in Satyug. Sattva jada hai. Satyug means I feel like doing dhanam, I feel like doing tapasya, I feel like I'm compassionate and I'm truthful. And that's called Sattva good, right? And that's what Bhagavad says. So the story, it's a very interesting story, but it tells the entire how the whole thing has working, all the whole system is working. So, and if we have 25% capacity, so by nature we are Satchidanand, but I am not Satchidanand. I have Krodh. That means that Kalyug is playing its role, and I am working on 25% of my capacity. Actually, I should be Purna, but because of Adharma, because of the capacity of Dharma is reduced 25%, my behavior is of not that level which I should be. So that's what Dharma is. Dharma means not the religion. Dharma means when Satya, Tapas, Daya and Dan, truthfulness, austerity, modesty or humility and Dhanam, they are together. That is Dharma. And that is social order. That's what, when we read Bhagavad Gita, this comes again and again. So Dharma is not a religion or one way of practicing thing. And that Gita will tell when we go. So that's the story of. But before and then, when Parikshit got that 7 days, that Takshak Nag will come and just bite you and you will die. Parikshit knew. So very interestingly, he said to Shukdevji, that time Rishi came, that there are two questions he asked, which are same kind of questions Arjuna asked in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, what is the duty of everyone in all circumstances? That's one question. And the second question was, what is the duty of everyone when the life is coming to an end? Because Parikshit knew, I'm going to die in 7 days. And answering that, the entire Bhagavad comes. Similar question asked Arjun to Bhagwan, because he's disturbed. He says, Prachami tvam dharma sammuna cheta यत श्रेयस स्यात् निश्चितम ब्रूहितन में. मुझे वो बताइए जो बेस्ट क्या है. अब ही इज ऑन द वॉर फील्ड एंड इस सिचुएशन में मेरे लिए बेस्ट क्या है. सेम थिंग परीक्षित आज की मैं अब मेरी लाइफ खत्म होने जा रही है, तो मेरे लिए बेस्ट क्या है. तो भागवतम में पूरी बहुत बड़ी दो चीज सुखदेव जी ने आंसर किया. एंड भागवतम इज लाइक 20,000 श्लोक, बट हियर 700 श्लोक में भगवान ने वही बात बताई है. दैट्स अ रीजन भगवद गीता इज वेरी यूनिक. So Shukdev ji बोलते हैं कि there are two things you should do in any circumstances, whether you're dying or not dying. One thing is that भगवान की लीलाओं का श्रवण मनन और निधिध्यासन करो. Listen to भगवान stories. उस पर चिंतन करना सिर्फ सुनने से नहीं होगा, उस पर चिंतन करना है. And then निधिध्यासन, imbibe those, as we talked about. मर्यादा पुरुषोत्तम की कहानी पढ़ने से पूरा काम नहीं होता है. मर्यादा पुरुषोत्तम ने जो किया वो हमें भी करना है. तब रामायण पढ़ी है, पढ़ना पूरा हुआ. So that is one. And second, Bhagwan Shukdev ji says, which is in Bhagavad Gita exactly the same thing, right? Yoga karma sukoshalam. He says, perfection of in the discharge of your duty. That's a dharma palan. That you should do. So have perfection in discharging your duty. Yoga karma sukoshalam. Gita says, and Bhagavad says the same thing. And how do you do that? Bhagavad में बड़ा हमने सिंपल समझा दिया. उन्होंने कहा है कि ज्ञान plus bhakti plus vairagya, that is called dharmanishta, that is called karma kaushalam. Same चीज Bhagavad Gita will say that. ज्ञान plus bhakti plus vairagya. और हमारे आचार्य जी बहुत अच्छा एग्जाम्पल देते हैं कि जब खीर बनती है तो खीर में 3 चीजें अगर ठीक से हो तो खीर स्वादिष्ट होती है. पहला तो दूध ठीक हो, अच्छा होना चाहिए. दूध इज ज्ञान. दूसरा उसमें शक्कर बराबर होनी चाहिए, मिठास. मिठास इज भक्ति. और तीसरा उसमें घी होना चाहिए. घी मीन्स तो कंटेंट घी डालते हैं जब खीर में तो उसका स्वाद अलग, थोड़ा सा डालते हैं लेकिन घी, दैट इज वैराग्य. जब ये 3 चीज होती हैं, दूध शक्कर और घी, तो खीर बड़ी स्वादिष्ट बनती है एंड जीवन मीठा हो जाता है. एंड दैट्स व्हाट सुखदेव जी सेज टू परीक्षित की ये 3 चीज अगर हैं तो आपकी एक्शन ऑटोमेटिक परफेक्ट हो जाएगी, जीवन सुखमय हो जाएगा. एंड दैट इज एंड इन दैट सिचुएशन Bhagavad says, and Bhagwan says in the Bhagavad Gita also, and Shukdev ji says, in that situation, when your life ends, you will remember Bhagwan. That's a goal. ब्रह्म निर्वाण, गीता में श्लोक आता है, 2nd chapter का आखिरी श्लोक है, ब्रह्म निर्वाणम रिच्छति. ये जो व्यक्ति है स्थित प्रज्ञ, ये जब जाता है तो अंत काले ब्रह्म निर्वाणम रिच्छति. अदरवाइज अंत काल में वासनाएं वापस आती है. नन ऑफ अस हैव एक्सपीरियंस ऑफ अंत काल. हमको, हम में से कोई भी अभी मर के आया नहीं है तो हमको ये पता नहीं, लेकिन वी हैव ऑब्जर्व. एंड अंतकाल में वासनाएं वापस आती हैं. तो अंतकाल में भगवान वापस आए तो उसके लिए ये करना है. दैट्स व्हाट भागवतम सेज एंड सिमिलरली भगवद गीता. सो भागवतम में तो पूरे 20,000 श्लोक में वो कहानी चली है. यहाँ 700 श्लोक में भगवान ने वही बात कह दी. एंड दैट इज वन रीजन भगवद गीता इज वेरी रिलेवेंट इन द मॉडर्न टाइम, बिकॉज भगवद गीता डजंट हैव एनी स्टोरी. Bhagavad Gita is purely a teaching. And same भगवान, भागवत कथा ही उन्हीं की है, लेकिन भगवान को शायद ये पता था कि ये द्वापर के बाद कलयुग आएगा और कलयुग में ये प्रॉब्लम आएंगी. भगवान knew that, still he went for the war. But we are fortunate, he gave that teaching ड्यूरिंग द वॉर। और उसके बाद फिर टीचिंग हुई भी नहीं। उसके बाद अर्जुन ने एक बार और पूछा है, महाभारत में आता है, भगवान बोले कि वो तो जो बोलना था उस समय बोल दिया, अब दोबारा नहीं हो सकता। तो वी आर सो फॉर्चुनेट कि भगवान ने जाने के पहले, ऐसा कहते हैं कि महाभारत वॉर के आफ्टर 35 years भगवान लेफ्ट दिस वर्ल्ड। पर एक काम भगवान हम लोगों के लिए बहुत अच्छा कर गए कि भगवत गीता का मैसेज देके गए। एंड थैंक्स टू अवर आचार्य शंकराचार्य जी और मेनी आचार्य हु हैव कंपाइल्ड वेद व्यास जी एंड ऑफर्ड दिस टू अस, जो हम पढ़ रहे हैं। सो नाउ द क्वेश्चन कम, व्हाई इट इज रिलेवेंट इवन टुडे? एंड इट इज सो रिलेवेंट, आई विल टेल यू एन एग्जांपल। आई वाज इन भारत, एक प्रोग्राम आता है शार्क टैंक यहाँ पर। इट्स अ वेरी फेमस प्रोग्राम वेयर investors like the startup people or somebody entrepreneur will go, and I'm sure many of you must have watched. It's a very popular program, Shark Tank. ज्ञान का तो बड़ा पसंदीदा प्रोग्राम। So Shark Tank में you go and present your case, and then investors, if they like your product, they'll fund it, and then you can start the business. So in India में I was visiting in my niece's friend from Mumbai IIT. She was on Indian Shark Tank as a national program. So we watched that, right? Because she was from Bhopal, my niece's friend. So we watched that. And it was wonderful. She presented the idea and she got the funding. And it is available on, you can look at the website. So she came up with the idea called Soul Up. It's a website called Soul Up. App bhi hai. And there it's already started, it is launched, it is in use because she got the funding. And in the Soul Up, they are creating a community on internet where it is for mental health or some social help. So you can talk to each other and you submit your problem. They'll connect you to some person who has gone through that, and it's pretty good. You can watch soulup.com. So I was talking to my niece because it's her friend who got this approval. What about Bhagavad Gita on it? So she said, Tauji, they are working on that. On their website, now I went this morning, they have added Bhagavad Gita also as a tool. So it's so relevant. Now these modern kids, today's time, it's there on their website. They use Bhagavad Gita as a tool for the mental health, for providing the solace. So look at the relevance. Adiguru Shankaracharya realized that Sanatana Dharma is losing its strength. So one of the tools he used Bhagavad Gita to propagate the teaching of Vedas, and that's why he translated. Then a lot of rishis came after that. Vivekananda used it. Gandhiji used for freedom movement. Bal Gangadhar Tilak used for Lok Sangra. Swami Vivekananda used for Lok Sangra because they wanted to serve the society. Various ways people have used Bhagavad Gita. Sunita Williams goes to space and she took Bhagavad Gita, and it's an interview there, right? Sunita Williams, when she came back, she said, you took Bhagavad Gita, why? And she says, it tells me how to do my action perfectly. That's what we saw, yoga karma kaushala. So that's and in fact, we have kids classes like on Saturday. So as I said, last batch was completed in 2.5 years, 6 kids. Now we have 10 kids. This is almost 1 year now. And I sometimes wonder why they are coming again and again every Saturday, alternate Saturday. Something they are liking. And of course, people say, oh, Bhagavad Gita is so, no, it's so easy because even the kid can relate, oh, it has a solution for me too. And I give them homework. So last time I gave them homework, we are on the 2nd chapter talking about karma. Is karma more important or karma phal more important? And we discuss. And most of the kids answered that karma is more important than karma phal. These are kids of like 8, 10, 12 age. They are also realizing that karma is, and one of the kids answered that karma is more important because when you're doing karma, you're in present. Karma phal is not with you. Karma phal is in future, which is unknown. So when you run for unknown, you're more anxious. While what you're doing, if you know what you're doing, you are less anxious and more focused. It's kids, and the same thing we will discuss, and based on that, she explained. I was very happy, like because it's a 12-year-old girl saying that karma is more important than karma. That's what Bhagavad Gita says. Ma phaleshu kadach. So that's the reason Bhagavad Gita is relevant. because everybody has their thing in the Bhagavad Gita, what they want. And it's a teaching, of course, for all ages. As I said, like from like हमारा अभी एक गीता ज्ञान ग्रुप है पिट्सबर्ग में, most of them are old people, retired, and their focus is just adhyat, and because of their life is all complete, nothing else to be done, it's good अध्यात्म स्वाध्याय करना है, उसके लिए भी है भगवद गीता. आप भगवद गीता पढ़ो, सिर्फ भगवान का नाम लो, उतना ही आनंद लो. Or you can use it for your karma, or like people use in sports, many, as we talked about, there was a movie based on that. So it is relevant for all age groups, because for everyone there is something for them. It's teaching, it's not a story. And so why it is relevant? Because it has for everyone, and what it addresses will come later, right? For everyone. The second is, Gita is relevant because it provides simple solutions. A lot of time people say, oh, it's very complicated, but I personally feel it's very simple. I mean, इससे simple teaching तो हो ही नहीं सकती है कि 700 श्लोक में पूरी दुनिया की teaching आ गई है. Only thing, we don't have the right way to know that, or maybe we don't have the right resource or competent person to tell. So it simple solution, and simple solution, किसी को आत्मबोध चाहिए, Gita tell, there is like a scholarly people, there is आत्मबोध in Bhagavad Gita. Somebody wants ऐसे लोक संग्रह सेवा करनी है, विवेकानंद, there is a chapter for you, there is a teaching for you. मन शांति चाहिए, स्वाद, या there is Bhagavad Gita, it teaches how to do ध्यान. हमारे राम जी को सबसे ज्यादा वही पसंद है, राम बजाज जी को. He says, I like the best part of the ध्यान. It is there, Bhagavad Gita का 6th chapter में ध्यान है. So what is not in Bhagavad Gita? And Vivekanand used to say, Swamiji, that there is no teaching outside of Bhagavad Gita. Every teaching you can, if you look for the word, it is in the Bhagavad Gita. For university students, I mean, I met a couple of white guys, they read Bhagavad Gita as a philosophy. Because they are not Hindus, they say we are practicing Christians, Catholic, but the philosophical part of Bhagavad Gita we like it. So it's a philosophy for some people. And that's the reason it provides solution to everyone, and simple solution. And one example I give, that I was in the camp, youth camp in Indianapolis last year, and high school kids. And we were talking about Bhagavad Gita. So one kid asked me that, okay, uncle, tell us in 1 or 2 sentences what is in Bhagavad Gita. And then looks like we'll be interested or not. I said, oh, it's very simple. There is a shloka in Bhagavad Gita, which is very famous shloka. We have used it many times. Matra sparshas tu kaunteya sitoshna sukha dukkhada agama painu anitya tastitikshasva bharat. And he is saying, all whatever we do karma with using senses, they have either sukh, karmi or thand, sit, ush, or sukh or dukh. But these are all temporary. Sukh aata hai to dukh aata hai. Condition will be favorable or unfavorable. All are temporary. So Arjun, tanstitiksha. This means the perseverance, the capacity to handle situation. That's what teaching started. So in simple terms, we translate, Bhagavan says, reduce the expectation, increase the acceptance. That is titiksha. Titiksha means forbearance, means capacity to handle situation, reduce expectation. ये चीतू भाई का topic है. And increase acceptance. Then you are peaceful. Problem, there is a gap between expectation and acceptance. Then that is called anxiety. That's called depression. That's called despondency. That's called विषाद. अर्जुन को हुआ. If he was expecting कि मेरे को झगड़ा नहीं करना पड़ा इन लोगों से, and he is unable to accept कि मुझे इनसे करना पड़ रहा है. So Bhagwan said, so I told them, it's very simple. That's what Gita's message, and they like it. Then we had some discussion. फिर उसके बाद discussion शुरू हो जाते हैं. So Gita is that simple, and that's why it says when I work with kids, they revisit the classes again and again for this reason. And the third thing why Gita is more relevant is there are a lot of resources available. And luckily these days internet is there. There are many acharyas have done, like Chinmayananji has done a wonderful work. Of course, Adi Shankaracharya. ISKCON, Prabhupada used Gita to propagate the message of, he called it Krishna consciousness. Krishna's teaching is become Krishna consciousness. And how many people are now become like Vaishnava or because of Bhagavad Gita? And he used that tool, Prabhupada, to propagate the message. So we have, the good part is Bhagavad Gita resources are available. Of course, we have to find the right resource. But people have translated in many languages. This is one book which is translated in almost all the languages, not only Indian languages, even foreign languages. So there are a lot of resources available, a lot of teachers are available. So it is relevant because it addresses everybody's need, all age groups. It provides simple solutions and it has available resources. And that is the reason it is still relevant after 5,000 years, whatever teaching was done. Because as the time moved, I think acharyas and our people, they continued the teaching in different way. Even today it is relevant. I mean, that's why I said the example of kids. They feel, yeah, there is a message for me. And that is one reason I think we are continuing with Bhagavad Gita. And we are revisiting because it is relevant. And as we read again these chapters, we'll find the messages which we read maybe few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. Oh, it's new. It looks more relevant today. The same message. So that's the reason Bhagavad Gita is still there. It addresses what we'll see next week. But in simple terms, there are two things happen. World Economic Forum did a survey recently, and they came up with a lot of modern day issues. And like, for example, health, education, finance, climate, discrimination, racism, addiction, all these are modern day problems. World Economic Forum, there was a conference last year in I think New York or somewhere. And all these things translate into two things. The grief, because all these problems translate for everyone. Like somebody has finance problems, somebody has health problems, somebody addiction problem. But two things happen: grief and conflict. Grief means if it is not favorable to me, I am unhappy. It is favorable to me, मुझे चिंता है कि ये जो favorable है चला नहीं जाए. तो दोनों सेंस में सुख आता है तो सुख चला नहीं जाए इसकी टेंशन रहता है, और दुख आता है तो दुख आ गया, दुख जाए जल्दी इसका टेंशन रहता है. इन बोथ केसेस आई एम एंग्शियस, which is sorrow or grief. जो भगवान ने बोला शोच. That's why भगवान told Arjun, right, मा शुचा, अरे चिंता छोड़, बस इसमें लगा रहे current situation. And the second thing is conflict. What to do, what not to do. Arjun had the same problem कि ये संन्यास ले लूं या युद्ध करूं या ये कर्म करूं या भक्ति करूं, क्या है, what is this? We all have the conflict, and conflict because of all these social problems. What to do, what not to do. Should I do this? Should I not do this? And that everybody, and that is the reason it is relevant, because ये सबकी problem, छोटे बच्चे की वही problem है. Mom or dad says you cannot eat more than one candy, और वो अकेले में उसको 2 कैंडी मिलती, सोचता है यार कि खाऊं कि नहीं खाऊं, क्योंकि I think I should not eat 2, but the conflict. So we all grow up with conflict and sorrow, of course. Sorrow means चिंता कह लें उसको, yeah. And that's what Arjun had, Vishad. The whole Gita started with Vishad. Arjun had that conflict and sorrow together. And Bhagavad Gita addresses that. And when we go forward, we'll see how it addresses. In fact, these days, in the corporate world, very famous term we use it, why we do what we do. It's in leadership programs and management, they say, why we do what we do. हमें पता है कि हम जो कर रहे हैं वो क्यों कर रहे हैं. That's the what to do, that's a conflict, right? कि मैं करूं या नहीं करूं, in corporate world also. And we have all seminars and leadership program around that theme. It's the same thing Bhagwan is saying, Vishad or Shoch, which Arjun को था. And Bhagwan told Arjun, like, नानु शोचंती पंडिता. समझदार लोग वो ये शोच, ये ग्रीफ नहीं करते हैं, इनको कॉन्फ्लिक्ट नहीं होता है. पंडित को कोई कॉन्फ्लिक्ट नहीं. And that's the goal, like teaching, right? So we'll continue with that next week when we meet further. How do Bhagwan is addressing those conflicts? And we saw that at the end, Arjun says Gat sandeha stito asmi. I remain free from all the doubts. And that was the goal of Bhagavad Gita, to address these two things and bring us to a state where I can say, when Arjun says, and we should be able to say, I remain free from all the doubts. Gat sandeha stito asmi. We will continue next time with the first chapter. But this is, in nutshell, what is Bhagavad Gita and what it addresses. So we'll do our dhyan for 5-6 minutes and close, right? So same again, it is coming from 6th chapter, Shlok 12 to 15. You can read yourself, but I have deciphered what Bhagwan is saying there, and we'll do the same dhyan, because the chapter itself is called Dhyana Yoga Atma Sanyam Yoga. Yeah. And again, yoga means the topic, implementation of that. So again, it says Om 6 times, which brings senses in control. And the journey starts from gross to subtle, from all these external senses to the mind, the buddhi, and to the Atman. And that's the journey. It's an inward journey. And that is dhyan. There is no separate dhyan. People say meditation kar rahe hain, then we don't do meditation. We remain in meditation, or we are in meditation. So let's say Om 6 times. Now, slow and shallow breathing, and keep the focus on the tip of the nostrils and observe the breath. And we are connected with Prithvi as the grossest element. Think of Prithvi, which is earth, and keep the focus on the tip of the nostril. Now shift focus from nostril to the tip of the tongue, and Jal is the element which is Bhagwan's grossest form. So think of Jal, any river, any form of Jal, and keep the focus on the tip of the tongue. Now shift focus from tongue to the eyes, and think of Agni or Surya Bhagwan, that is subtler than the water. That's a subtler form of Bhagwan's manifestation. Surya Bhagwan or Diya, and focus on the eyes. Bring that image. Now shift focus to the skin and feel air around, which is Vayu Devta. You can feel air or Vayu on the skin. This is subtler than the Agni. Now shift focus to ears and think of the sound or Akash, space, which we realize through sound. So we can hear some sound when we keep the focus on ears, because sound travels in space. So space is the subtlest of the gross, subtlest of manifestation of Bhagwan, which we don't see but we feel. Now we have to tell that I am not these senses, I am not this gross body. I am not the mind which is beyond body. I am not this intellect which is further than mind. I am that Sakshi Atma. Which is Akarta, Nispraha, Shant. Those are the attributes of Atma. And I am that. So I am Sakshi, I am Akarta, I am Nispraha, I am Shanti. Now Bhagwan says, Brahmacharine Vrate. He says, bring a thought, which is Brahma Vichar. So the best Brahma Vichar is Gayatri Mantra. So just chant Gayatri Mantra in mind with the following the meaning. It's best to follow the meaning. If not, at least Gayatri Mantra is good enough in the mind. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. And Bhagwan says, Yukta Asit Matpara. Bring Bhagwan's image in mind and just be there. Now, no body, no mind, no conscious, no buddhi, no Gayatri Mantra, just Bhagwan's image, and I am in Bhagwan's presence, Sannidhi or Sanidhi. And we can be in this condition state of for as long as possible. Take a deep breath with Om, and we can open the eyes. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Krishna Kanhaiya Lal ki jai. So now we saw that Bhagavad Gita is simple, it is available. The only thing, how do we use it? So we'll close with एक गाना है बहुत प्यारा. वो चांद खिला, वो तारे हंसे, वो रात अजब मतवाली है. समझने वाले समझ गए, जो ना समझे वो अनाड़ी है. It is available. बरस रहा है, वो चांद चांदनी खिली है, आनंद लेना है तो बाहर आओ. समझने वाले समझ गए, जो ना समझे वो नाड़ी है. इतना सिंपल है, नहीं समझे तो आप नाड़ी है. वो तो अवेलेबल. With that, we'll meet next week. We'll go over first chapter as we progress, right?